Life is short. And in Nigeria, life is brutally short. Check the life expectancy figures. Since we've been here, at least 2 women have died in childbirth. We lose about 146 women every day. Every month, not every year, every month. We lose about 140. This is a national average. In the Northeast, it's about 550 every month who are giving birth, who are pregnant. And I repeat myself on this. I ask you, where were you on the day you heard of the Dana air crash? Think about a country repeating the Dana air crash every month, once every month of the year. That is the number of women we pretty much lose to pregnancy, to lovemaking, to something that is supposed to yield pleasure and happiness and replace and replenish us as a species, as a country. Now, you then look at the kinds of things that can kill you here. And there are quite many. Male life expectancy is not rising, it's falling. It's somewhere now between 45 and 46. It's going that way, not that way. And yet, we claim economic growth figures in the region of between 6 and 7%. Something is not adding up. So, the way I put it is this. If you go out, when I go around right now, I no longer ask people why they're doing parties. If I hear somebody banging the drums for a party and I'm dressed up to attend, I'll go there and share something with them. It may be the last thing I eat or drink. I don't ask, why are you organizing a party? What are you celebrating? Whether it is Ido, they don't bomb Pekino, whatever it is that's happened. I join my people in celebration wherever I meet it these days, because there is, whenever you go out and come back in our country, it's cause for celebration. If have you seen the pathology, the incidence of youth high blood pressure? Now, have you seen the number of young people in their 20s who have had stroke, or who are actually being treated actively with prescriptions for high blood pressure?
What are the figures?
I've not seen figures. I'm just saying. I've not seen any figures. I'm not even sure that there's been any study, that is relatable to a baseline. But this is it. I've only started seeing this in the last 5 or thereabouts years. All right. When my generation grew up, we believed that high blood pressure was, for the most part, an old age, a middle-aged, old age infirmity. You begin to develop gray hairs and pot belly, and there are too many children, and there are wives and all of that, and existential problems give you this kind of thing. These days, you see lots of young people, and it's not as if they're overweight, in their 20s with high blood pressure. You see young people who have gone through stroke and aneurysm. Now, those who are inclined in the direction of magical spirituality will say it is a sign of the times, right? But whatever the times are, I just think that there's a spectacular brutality, aggressive brutality to the way we conduct things here that we've got to try and humanize the way life is lived in our country. And every one of us has a responsibility to do that. It's not, people who go around and say, oh, it's the president, and it's the governor, that's politician. I think it is every one of us that's contributed to this, and all of us have got in our little ways to take responsibility for change. Now, now we're in an office here, and I have minimal responsibilities in this office. And I've got, there are people who work here as cleaners, as drivers, as we've got to create an industrial environment in which people can grow. If you cannot improve those whom you meet anywhere, don't destroy them. Don't reduce them below the level at which you found them. So if every morning I come in here, I start abusing people from the gate, you useless, stupid. And you go and I sit down, you bring me water, you bring me this, and the other one, is stumbling and the water trips, I'll fire you. I will induce economic insecurity in them, and that could breed high blood pressure very easily. Now, a young woman could begin to develop somatic disorders. Her period, her cycle, for instance, could become irregular. She could become, she could start somatizing. You could then have colleagues who develop all manner of rashes and skin disorders because you have created an industrial environment in which they cannot grow. And it's not just that you're not growing them, you're destroying them. Now, take the police force. We have a police force with it's the biggest employer in Nigeria, that's why I take it. It's not because I have any particular thing, but it is the oldest public institution in Nigeria, established in 1861. And it is also the biggest employer of labor in Nigeria. It's got about, depending on whose figures you believe, somewhere between 330 and 370,000 employees. Now, send a police officer, a policeman or woman, to an operation into a place in which you don't provide kits, you don't provide food, you don't provide weaponry, you don't provide shelter, and you tell them, live off the land. What do you expect? You create an epidemic of indignity. Why? Because you have sent the police officers on a deliberate mission called indignity. They cannot give dignity to their host community. And so everybody is troubled. Meanwhile, the police officer that you've sent out there cannot pay school fees to their children. So while they are worrying about, while they're doing the operation they're doing there, they're also worried. So as when we multiply in these indignities, the little indignities, so for instance, if I oppress my employee here or the colleague that I work with here, he or she will go home tense and they start oppressing the people that they live with at home. And the children that they're bringing up will come up tense because if the child drops a glass, they get utterly wet. The person is whipping the child not because that is the way they want to do it, but because they're insecure and they are visiting aggression on the child. So there are things that we can do every one of us in our respective and little ways to minimize the levels of aggression and brutality in our society. You will go to school and see an officer looking after children with cowhide, bilala, koboko, whatever it is called, right? Or horsewood, right? Or if it is not that, it's a motor park, an officer of the Union of Road Transport Workers in a car park, a public car park, right? Or a police officer on the streets, or some other, a Kai brigade, or one of these other brigades and militias everywhere. They carry horse whips, and who do they want to beat? Nigerians. So all of these things induce a psychosis, in my view, in our population. And that's why I see my role, that's why I'm not, much bothered about some of these power things. Because I do see the role of the chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission as more than just institutional. I think there is an ethical dimension to it, an ethical regeneration dimension to it. There is a role of speaking truth to power to it. A kind of civic priesthood, almost, that should come with it. That should not be confined to the parameters of how high your office is and how many police obelisk follow you and how many cars you drive, official cars you drive or don't drive. But you've got to have the credibility and the sincerity and humility to speak truth to power with rigor and do it with exact conscience. Yeah.